What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sherdog.com betting show with me, Sean Sheehan here for Sherdog.com. And there's no UFC this weekend, but luckily enough, I've been tasked for Sherdog for doing the previews of Eagle FC 44 and Bellator 273 this weekend. So I feel like I'm in a good place to give you a few bets for both of those cards. I've looked through both of them in pretty fine fettle, to be honest, over the last week or so. You'll be able to watch my previews. Hopefully both of them will be up by the time this comes out. I know the Bellator 273 preview is already out, so we have a big heavyweight fight atop both cards, I suppose. One unifying the title in Bellator and the other one seeing, two, I suppose, one veteran of MMA, but one veteran of combat sport. Well, two veterans of combat sport, I suppose you could say, go up against each other in the main event with Sergei Kharitonov obviously going against Tyrone Spong in his first fight in, I think, around 9 years in MMA. So that should be interesting. Interesting, I suppose, is the word for it. Whether it'll be good now or not, I don't know. I can't maybe assure you that one, but I think it will be interesting however things go. And the Bellator card, not the best card in the world, but I actually don't think it's a bad card for betting, which is good. I think sometimes you see some of the big UFC and Bellator cards, and there's a lot of close matchups and they're tough for betting. And now there's close matchups in this as well. But I still think I've pulled out a couple of good bets, which I shall give to you. So I'm going to start off. I have, everyone knows, if you haven't never watched before, I give 5 bets here. 4 straight up bets and then 1 big flyer. So I have 2 bets from the Eagle FC and I have 3 bets from the Bellator card this weekend. And I'll go in order here. I must tell you though first, please bet responsibly. Don't bet more than you can. I say it every time and I will continue to say it unless I forget, which I probably will at some stage. It can be very serious betting and stuff like that, so don't go overboard, especially with my picks. These are fun. These are MMA picks rather than betting picks, but please take your A's, as we'd say here in Ireland, and go easy with it. So let's get straight into it here. And I'm going to, obviously, as I said, I'll start with Eagle FC. And you know what? In the main event anyway, I'll go with that first. I'm going for the underdog here, and I'm going for Sergei Kharitonov, which I'm very surprised to say is the underdog here at plus 159. He is at the moment. Now, these will fluctuate, go up and down. I see he's 150, plus 150 in other places, but plus 159 in the book I had looked at here a few minutes ago when I was putting these odds together. And I just think that's too much. Now, I went back and watched a lot of Kharitonov's fights, as I mentioned in my preview, and look, he stands up, he kickboxes, he throws big shots on the, with his hands and with his legs, with his feet. And you would think that would be the perfect matchup for someone like Tyrone Spong, who is a kickboxer. And look, it's a good matchup, and I think it will be a good fight on the feet. But unless Tyrone Spong knocks him out very early or hurts him really bad where he can't move early, but does kind of hit him, I think Kharitonov will surely switch things up. Like, he surely has enough wrestling and grappling chops to take Tyrone Spong down, put him on the ground and beat him there. Like, Spong, when he fought his first couple of fights in MMA, he's only had 2 fights, but when he fought both of them, they weren't the best guys in the world, nowhere near the level of Sergei Kharitonov, who's been around for years and years. You'll see in my preview, I've named a few of the people he's beaten over him and others down through the years. He's had a great run in his career. And you don't do that by not being like a well-rounded fighter and all of that. But for Spong, the guys who he fought, he just went in and he basically leg kicked him. He looked absolutely phenomenal, but that was 9 years ago. And he's broken his leg since then, I believe. Do you remember he had a really bad leg break? But he's come back and he's done well in boxing and everything like that. Now, look, I think Kharitonov can do okay on the feet if it stays there, but why would it stay there? Like, it's one of those ones. I remember the Clarissa Shields fight she had, her last fight she had. I remember coming into that, I picked her opponent on this show. I gave her as my bet, Abigail Montez, I believe her name is, and because I watched some of her fights and she's a good, well-rounded MMA fighter. Now, I watched some of Kharitonov's fights and I did see a bit of wrestling. I got into a couple of my friends like, when did he wrestle? And I got a fight from like 15 years ago. So he has a bit of wrestling chops in him. Make no mistake about that. But he's going to need to be smart. He's going to need to take him down. He's going to need to play the very intelligent game that you have to play when you're fighting someone as dangerous as Tyrone Spong is standing up. But I believe he can, and I believe he will. I don't think Kharitonov gets you. I don't think he can get to 41 years of age with a good record like Kharitonov has, being a good fighter for years, beating lots of good guys without being able to fight in all different ways, or without being smart enough to know who you're coming up against. Right? If he's not smart enough to know who he's coming up against and he goes into kickboxes with him, I actually think he still has a bit of a chance. But I would obviously pick Spong in a huge way. But I think, look, 9 years out of the cage, how good of a ground game does he have? How good of a wrestling game does he have? It just all is going against Spong. And I find it very hard. Look, if Spong was the underdog, I could see someone picking him. I could see someone going for him thinking maybe Kharitonov's a little bit over the hill. Maybe, he's more of a kickboxer. He's probably going to go in there and fight with him like that. But the fact that Kharitonov, the guy with all the experience, the guy with everything as an MMA fighter, is the underdog, I just can't look past that. I can't turn up that bet. I call myself a fool after the fight if I'd watched it and I see that Kharitonov has won. So that is my first bet without a shadow of a doubt. Sergei Kharitonov to win at plus 159. Now, my next bet is to win at plus 195, and that is Rashad Evans. Okay, and now bear with me a second. I went back. He's fighting Gabriel. Checco is his opponent's name. And I went back and watched a few of his fights, right? And I think he needs to do the exact opposite of Kharitonov. I think Rashad needs to keep this on the feet, land a few jabs and a few right hands down through the middle. And honestly, I think that'll be enough. Checco on the feet is not great. As I mentioned on my preview, I watched Pat Miletich commented on him and he called him a swatter, which is, if you've seen him fight, it's a very appropriate name for him. I think that's what he is. He just goes out there trying to. Now he's very tough and he's durable and he's able to take a shot. When it gets to the ground, he's very, very good on top. But I think if Rashad can stay off of his back, not get on top, maybe even get a few takedowns inside her. Now I know Checco has a good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background and I'm sure he has a few submissions and stuff, but it's hard to see Rashad getting submitted from the bottom by someone like that. If he can avoid that position, avoid being on his back, I think he can win the fight. And I think he probably will win the fight, The problem is, look, Rashad has been out now for, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it's been. Didn't look great before he was gone. But if he comes in with any little bit of confidence, any little bit of output upped from his last run, I think he'll win the fight because of Checco. Because I think it's good matchmaking, honestly. Now I could be wrong. Checco come in here and knock him out. The problem with Rashad is, right, if he fights the same way he used to fight towards the end of his career, it's going to be probably a close decision. Because that's what all of these fights were. The Dan Kelly fight, the Sam Alvey fight. Like, those lads are better than Checco, but not by miles. Those lads are boys who Rashad Evans should be beaten. If we're to look at like the Rashad Evans that beat Chuck Liddell, Rashad Evans come from tough, Rashad Evans that won the title, he was a top fighter. Look, he's no longer that. I think we all know that. But if he has any morsel of what used to be Rashad Evans and a little bit of improvement in confidence, I think, more than anything, which might have come back with the little bit of training that obviously a lot of training he's probably been doing to prepare for this, I think he can beat someone like Checco. Like, he's just a far superior athlete and fighter to him. And I think he can win it. Now, I might be wrong. We'll see. But yeah, I think Rashad can do it, and I think he will do it. So we'll wait. Look, we'll wait and see on that one to see how it goes. But right, the next bet I'm going for are from Bellator. And I'm going first off. I'm going for Henry Corrales to win inside the distance, and that's plus 340. Now, if you look at Corrales' all fights, I've covered a few of his fights now for Sherdog here and talked obviously about him and broke him down. And he is a guy. His last fight impressed me an awful lot, fighting Prabhuchenko. Did a great job of that. And he's coming in here as the underdog, right? And I was going to give him straight up And he was actually the favourite yesterday or last night when I was looking at this, but he's turned around now. I'm pretty sure if the betting odds are right. Let me just look here, and yeah, he has. He's gone from a minus 200 to a plus 105. Now I don't know how that happened. That's crazy. And I would go for him at that price, to be honest. So I'll give you a bit of a double bet here. Plus 105 straight up for Corrales to win. But Corrales to win inside the distance at plus 340, I think that's a good bet. Like, I like Aiden Lee. I think he's a good fighter, but he's a guy who's very open and fights in a very open way. And he himself goes for the finish with submissions and on the feet and everything like that. Now, I don't know if something has happened, if there's a bad weight cut gone on or something like that for Henry Corrales that I haven't seen, but I think I'm a bit shocked by that. The odds have turned like that so quickly, but I don't waver on my pick. I'm still going for Corrales, and I think he'd be able to land a big shot. I think the fact that Lee is so open and he will take a shot to land a shot or two of his own. I don't think you can do that against Corrales. And Lee is very, very willing to go to the ground as well. Corrales will stand up, he will posture up and get a few shots in, land a few shots of ground and pound, and can be very, very hurtful with those shots as well. So I just think look, Lee could catch him with something. He could catch him with a big shot, or he could catch him in a submission, absolutely. But I think Corrales is maybe too long in the tooth for that. I think he's too good, and I think he will land his own shots, land big shots, land hurtful shots, and I think he will win this. And I think he'll win it. I think he will win it inside the distance. Now, look, the inside the distance is plus 340. If I'd seen that price, if it was a different price last night, I would have gone for it just straight up. But I'm sticking to my bet here that I have written down at plus 340 inside the distance. I think it'll be a good fight. Look, I think it'll probably be fight at night, to be honest. I think it's going to be a rock'em sock'em robots. And I just, when fights like that often happen, you see maybe the more schooled guy, the guy who's been around a little bit longer, who's fought the higher level, and very importantly as well, the guy who maybe hits a little bit harder is often the guy who comes out on top. And I think that's exactly what Corrales is here. I just think he's a little bit better. And I'm very, very surprised that Lee has turned around and has become a favourite now. So we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the bookies are right. Do you know what? The bookies are often right and I'm often wrong. So we maybe we're better off going with them. But yeah, that's a very interesting fight and a very interesting betting line as well on that one. But yeah, I feel like Lee, he comes out and he has like the head down and he goes jab straight through and he's very long in the work he does. But I can just see Corrales throwing a big uppercut and hurting him, or kind of dodging out of the way of that jab, coming inside, going to the body and coming with a second shot up over the head. And I just think those shots from Corrales with the power he throws and the smarts he has are going to be an issue. Like, it's weird. You're fighting Pavlyuchenko in your last fight, who was tiny. He looked tiny in that fight, and then he goes in there against Corrales. He actually didn't look as small, but he looked tiny in the fights I watched, and he didn't look as small against Corrales. But I think that's the way he fought him. And now Lee's going to be a lot bigger than him, I would say, as well. So it's a very different style matchup, but I think it's an easier style matchup for Corrales in a way. And I think he'll do well, and I think he'll win it. So we will leave it at that with that one. The next one, I'm going for Enrique Barzola to win against Darrion Caldwell. This is another one that's kind of chopping and changing. I've seen a couple of places here that he is the underdog, and a couple of other places he's the favorite, but I have him here at plus what do I have him at? Plus 110, I think it is. Let me just look here again. Yeah, I have him at plus 125 to win by decision. Yeah. So these odds have chopped and changed as well. Yeah, but I have him at plus 125 to win by decision. He is minus 125 to win straight up. Look, this was one I kind of struggled with, but I wanted to give a bet for it. And I watched a few Barzola fights. And he's a very, very tough guy to fight. And I just feel like Darrion Caldwell isn't as good as he used to be and struggles with very, very tough guys. Barzola has good wrestling, better wrestling than maybe, it looks like in some of his fights. He's good takedown defense. He can fight everywhere. He's tough. He's good. He's not fucking Vasily Lomachenko or anything in terms of his technique, but he could throw hands. He's wild with the hands more than technical, I would say. And he's a guy you just don't want to fight. If you're in his weight class and you're maybe on the come up or on the re-come up like maybe Caldwell is, you just do not want to fight someone like Barzola. And I think Caldwell, I'm not to say anything too bad about him, but I think some people have more fight in them than others. And I think if you're to look and ask who's more fighting in Barzola or Caldwell, I think 9 people out of 10 would probably say Barzola. And that's maybe the reason more so than anything that I'm going for him here. I just think he'll beat Caldwell in too many areas. Like, look, if Caldwell can take him down and dominate on top and hold him down from the start, from the bell, he can absolutely, and he will absolutely win the fight. But if he doesn't, and he gives Barzola a chance in any way, I think Barzola will come back. And I think even if he loses the first round and he wins the second, I definitely think he'd win the third. So that's kind of why I went for him by decision. Caldwell still and all is a hard out. It'd be hard to see him getting submitted or anything like that, and hard to see him maybe getting knocked out. But yeah, that's why I think it'll go to decision. I just think, Barzola will have too many shots landed for him, will have too much output, and will have not enough give to lose the fight if Caldwell comes out and even wins early. But I think it's a massive fight in Darrion Caldwell's career. Now Barzola's coming over. I think this is his first Bellator fight. Obviously, he was in the UFC and other places, but Caldwell needs to get back on this kind of winning trail and get back to winning 3-4 fights in a row to get back to where he wants to be at the very top of the sport. And this is a big one for him. If he loses here to Barzola, it's a long way back. It is a long way back. So a massive fight for him here. And, to be an underdog as well. Honestly, when I saw the line, I was a little bit surprised he was an underdog, to be honest. But that's exactly what he is. And Barzola, I think Barzola will win, but we'll wait and see. I've doubted Darrion Caldwell before and I've been wrong, so I might be wrong again. But Barzola win by decision plus 125. Right, those are my 4 bets. And here's my flyer. I actually struggled a little bit for a flyer this week, and also the odds weren't out until really late. So I've had to record this a little bit later in the week as well, so apologies to everyone if you're looking for it earlier in the week. The odds just simply weren't up, so there's nothing I could do. I couldn't get my flyer of the week. So my flyer of the week this week is I'm going for the main event in Bellator, and I'm going for the interim champion, I believe he is, Moldavsky, to win by submission at plus 800. Now, if you watch my preview, I think I probably said he'd win by decision, and as I said, I kind of struggled for a flyer a little bit, but he's had lots of decisions in his career. He's a guy who fights a decision, so much. He's not the most exciting fighter in the world, but I think over 5 rounds, I said in the preview, and I'll say it again, I said it in other places, I think Ryan Bader is shot. I think he's not the fighter he once was. I don't think he's the fighter he was when he came into the Bellator, when he was for maybe 3 or 4 years in the UFC. I think he had a great run there, but I think that time has passed, and I think he is over the top of his peak and way down the other end, and I don't think he can rescue it. I don't think he can come back, especially against a guy as good as Moldavsky. Now, as I said, he goes to a lot of decisions, but when you're winning decisions against good guys like Congo and even Ryan Nelson, Javier and others, you have to be a good fighter. Okay, there's no maybe big massive killers or anything like that, but Tim Johnson too, he beat Tim Johnson. You have to be a good fighter, and over 5 rounds against Bader, I just think Bader will maybe survive early. My other bet I was looking at here, and I think it was plus 1200 or something. Maybe I'll pull it up in a second, but was a late win, maybe 4th or 5th round. That would be kind of the other flyer I was looking at here. But I do think maybe by submission. Now, I said it in my preview, and I was taking my notes. I was going back looking at my notes today from that preview, and one thing I had in my notes was that Moldavsky fights in so many different ways. In the Ayala fight, he pulled him down to the ground, used his sambo. In the Johnson fight, he's standing up and he's boxing with him and using his striking. And in a fight like against Ryan Nelson, he was pushing right against the cage, using dirty boxing, Muay Thai clinch, knees inside. He can fight many different ways. And I feel like against Bader, he will, the one thing you don't want to do against Bader is land on your back. But if you can put Bader on his back and put him on the back foot striking as well, I think that's the way to beat Bader. And if you could do that, go straight forward, land a few jabs, put him against the cage, take him down, especially if the fight goes late, as I think it will, and he maybe has 2 or 3 rounds on top. I think Bader will get more tired. You could see him maybe getting knocked down, taking his back and submitting him. That's the kind of way I think it'll go. If I had to predict the fight, I think that's what I would say, like a 4-round submission for Moldavsky, or maybe a 3rd-round submission like that. I think it will go on a couple of rounds. I think Bader will fight and he will survive. He's a tough guy. I don't think he is what he used to be, as I said, but I still think he's a tough guy. And I think if he can do that, survive late, I think he will tire quicker than Moldavsky will tire. And tired people often get submitted. So I think that's probably the way it will go. And even if it doesn't, let's say Moldavsky comes out early, takes him down, dominates him, lands a big few shots of ground and pound, takes his back and submits him, it still counts. If it's a 1st, 3rd, 2nd, 4th round submission, it doesn't matter. The plus 800 by submission. I went for a plus 800 by submission with Figueiredo last week as well. He almost got it at the end of that 3rd round, so I was close. So I think I'll have to keep going for these plus 800 submissions until one of them turns up in the main event. But those are my bets anyway, and I'm sticking with those. I'll run through some of the other fights on these cards here. Let's go with EFC first. As I mentioned, Kharitonov straight up plus 159. Tyrone Spong around minus 200, minus 188 here and somewhere else as well. I wouldn't go for that, to be honest. I wouldn't go for it. Checco is minus 220 against Rashad Evans plus 180. Cody Gibson and Ray Borg, a very, very close fight. They're plus 135 for Gibson. Ray Borg minus 165. I had Cody Gibson down as one of my bets and I took it out late. I would go for Gibson there plus 135. John Howard plus 315, minus 115 for Nurmagomedov. Minus 145. I want to start reading these numbers better. I think Nurmagomedov will win there. Megaladiev is a big favourite in minus 600 against the plus 400 Anthony Injakwani. Arman Ospanov minus 140 against Salvador plus 110. And we have Asher is a big underdog plus 300 against Jorgen De Castro for Armory UFC minus 400. DeMarcus Jackson plus 120, minus 150 for Hunsinger. I go for Hunsinger there minus 150. I think he's like 7-0 and Jackson hasn't had the best time recently. Fight I like, maybe fight of the weekend. Zach Zayn against Like Rabzabov. He obviously was in PFL for the last couple of years. He is minus 425. I think it's a closer fight than that, to be honest, but I do think he will win. And then Sean Bunch is the favourite as well in his fight, as is Muadayev there as well. So let's go from the bottom of the top. In Bellator, Nikita Mikhailov is a big, massive favourite now, minus 900. He looked brilliant in his fight against Brian Moore, so he deserves that. Plus 555 or 550 even for a shot. Sullivan Cawley minus 210 against fan favourite Ben Parrish. Plus 170, I think that's just about right. Lucas Brindon's a minus 1,000 favourite over Ben Lugo, plus 600. Plus 500 for Dwayne The Rock Johnson against Dalton Ross. Syed Awad is a plus 200 underdog against Chris Gonzalez. As I mentioned, Barzola minus 120. Little bit surprising that one, even though I'm picking him plus 100 for Darrion Caldwell. Sabah Homasi is plus 190 against Jalal Willis minus 240. I think that's a little bit closer maybe than it should be. Henry Corrales, the underdog, amazingly, plus 105 against minus 125 for Aiden Lee. Islam Mamedov against Benson Henderson. This is the biggest fight of the weekend, I suppose. I avoided in my bets. Mamedov is minus 400, Benson Henderson plus 300, and that's the reason I avoided it. I don't think there's much scope there for movement, and you never know with Benson Henderson. The fight to go to a decision, I kind of like that, but it's minus 200 as well. Not the best bet in the world, not the biggest bet in the world. Mamedov to win by submission was another one I was looking at, was one of my flyers, minus 700. But yeah, not the biggest fan of that one either. So yeah, I kind of avoided that one in terms of betting, but I would probably go with, if I was looking at something there, I'd probably go with the over maybe. Of minus 6 or minus 260, or just go to a decision at minus 200. But yeah, I do like Mamedov there after going back and watching him. But you never know, Benson Henderson, if he shows up, he can be very good if he can stop the takedown. I think he might get the better of it on the feet, but I don't like that fight in terms of betting, and I want to kind of avoid that one. But the main event then, Ryan Bader plus 240, minus 300 for Moldavsky. I think it should be bigger. I think Moldavsky should be a bigger favourite than that. And as I was telling you, to Moldavsky to win in round 4, that is plus Sorry, he went to win by KO in round 4 is plus 1600. Can I get him here just to win straight up in round 4? I can. That's plus 1400. So yeah, I was either going 4 or 5 to win round 5 is plus 2000. So if you want to pick out one of them, if you pick out the wrong one, or if you pick out the right one even, you can make a lot of money, and hopefully you do. So I'll read out my bets again. Sergei Kharitonov to win plus 159. Rashad Evans to win plus 195. Corrales to win inside the distance at plus 340. Barzola to win by decision plus 125. And then Valentin Moldavsky to beat Ryan Bader by submission. My flyer of the week at plus 800. That's all from me. Sean Sheehan here. Keep it locked to Sherdog.com for all your fight week coverage, and I'll see you all next time.